I have used both EveryDollar and You Need a Budget for extended periods of time, so today we're going to put them head to head to help you decide what the best budgeting app is in 2022. What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So I recently did updated reviews on both EveryDollar as well as You Need a Budget, also known as YNAB. And while I do personally use EveryDollar right now, neither of these platforms is sponsoring today's video, and I have used both of them for extended periods of time. So right out of the gate, both of these platforms use an identical approach to budgeting known as zero-based budgeting. And this simply means that you are giving every single dollar that you earn a purpose, whether that is going towards your various expenses, saving that money, giving that money, or investing it. YNAB goes about this a little bit differently in that they want you to live off of last month's income, and personally, I actually really like that approach, and while it isn't intended to be used with the EveryDollar app, you absolutely could budget this way by simply applying last month's income to this month's budget. But regardless, both of these platforms get a thumbs up from me on the zero-based budgeting strategy because I do believe that it is by far the best budgeting method. Each platform can also be accessed via their well-designed respective mobile apps and desktop applications as well, and while both of them have seen significant improvements over the past several years, EveryDollar in general is a much more simple and hands-off approach, while YNAB goes into a lot more depth and is what I would call a more advanced platform, and I'll give you my thoughts on whether or not that is a good thing in a second. But as you would expect, on the surface, both are going to function in a very similar way, in that you're going to open your accounts, be given some standard budgeting categories as a starting point, and from there you're able to customize those expenses, input your income, link any external bank accounts or credit cards, and from there all of your transactions are going to automatically be synced, and you're then able to simply categorize them to your different respective budgeting categories that you create. So if you create a budgeting category for groceries, for example, then when you make a transaction in that category, it will show up within the app and you just apply that grocery purchase to your grocery budgeting category. Again, largely the same for both of these, but the first major difference is actually how these platforms handle credit card transactions, which is obviously a big deal to me. Now, I talked about this briefly in my recent reviews, but if you have a bank account and a credit card linked to your budgeting app, which you probably would, then what ends up happening is your credit card transaction shows up, plus then when you go and pay off that card, it actually shows up as income, and when you pay off the card, it shows up as a second transaction in your bank account. So one transaction turns into 3 transactions, which as you can imagine gets really annoying. Now, thankfully, You Need a Budget has a really great solution to this, allowing you to set up a credit card payment category where you can simply drag those duplicate transactions and it will essentially remove them from your budget. But EveryDollar, on the other hand, does not offer this feature, and that's to be expected considering EveryDollar was created by Dave Ramsey, who is notoriously anti-credit card. So that is a difference that you'll definitely want to keep in mind, but like I said, I'm personally using EveryDollar right now and have multiple credit cards linked to my budget, and while it is a little bit annoying that you have to manually delete those duplicate transactions or create a fund in order to earmark them as irrelevant, there is a way to categorize and delete multiple transactions at once within the Transactions tab, so I will show you that later on in the video. All right, but before we go much further with the different features here, I do feel we should talk about another big differentiator that a lot of you probably care about, and that of course is price. Both platforms offer a free trial, with YNAB offering you a 34-day free trial, giving you a full month to try out the platform, while EveryDollar currently offers a 14-day free trial. Each platform also allows you to pay by the month or save money by paying upfront for the entire year. Now, up until recently, the only way to get the premium version of EveryDollar was by purchasing Ramsey Plus, which is $130 per year and includes Financial Peace University and some other tools, but thankfully they have now separated the premium version of EveryDollar from those other tools that you may not need, and now it just costs $79 per year or $13 per month if you want to pay monthly. YNAB, on the other hand, is $99 for the year or $15 per month if you pay monthly. monthly. So You Need a Budget is a little bit more expensive, and outside of that 34-day free trial, there is no free version of YNAB. While EveryDollar does allow you to use it for completely free, the only difference is that you won't be able to automatically sync those transactions from your other financial accounts. But as we'll talk about at the end of the video, a successful budget is all about removing the pain and friction that is often associated with budgeting. So if you're going to use any of these platforms, or any other budgeting platform for that matter, then I'd say go ahead and upgrade to the premium version, because it is a small investment that will pay for itself 100 times over. Both platforms also have some pretty good resources, such as videos and articles teaching you how to best use each respective platform, but honestly, the only way to learn is to just play around with the app, make a bunch of crappy, messy budgets, and then move on to the next month and try again. Now, the next thing I want to talk about before we get to the biggest differentiator by far is the customer support. And truthfully, I've never had any experience with YNAB's customer support. However, based on the many good customer reviews, it sounds like their customer service is fairly good, which is always essential. And again, they do have that extensive FAQ page and a number of helpful videos and resources allowing you to learn how to best use this platform. On the flip side of the coin, I have had experience with EveryDollar's customer service. Since when I first started using this platform, I actually had some issues with not being able to view my sub-accounts from my main bank accounts, where I keep my emergency fund and some other earmarked money. Similar to You Need a Budget, they have the same FAQ pages and resources, but in my case, I sent them an email describing the issue that I was having, and they immediately forwarded that on to the programming team, who performed some magic coding, and within a matter of days, I updated the app and was now able to view those sub-accounts from my main bank accounts. And again, this video isn't sponsored by them. They don't even know that I make videos like this, so it's not like I was getting any kind of special treatment. So in my experience, that was top-notch customer service. All right, but the biggest differentiator that is honestly the reason why I decided to look for an alternative budgeting option comes down to simplicity. I talk about this word a lot on my channel because I am a firm believer that a successful budget should not take a whole lot of painful effort on your part, otherwise it's not gonna stick long term. Now, that's probably not the case for everyone, and for some, filling out homemade spreadsheets and stuffing envelopes with cash is the most effective budgeting strategy, and that's completely okay. But if you wanna implement any other kind of habit into your life, the easiest way to do that is to make that habit as seamless and painless as possible, and one of these platforms is much easier to integrate into your life in my experience, and that would be EveryDollar. Again, this is just a difference that I have identified to work for me, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one platform is better than another. However, just looking at the user interface and experience, it's quickly clear that EveryDollar is a much more bare bones and simple platform, while YNAB goes into a lot more depth and is much more advanced. Now, in fairness, I did use You Need a Budget for a long time, and therefore got to learn my income and expenses and how to create an effective budget, and ultimately got to the point where I stopped using the app as much because I just knew the rough numbers in my head. But over time, I started to fall outside of those guide rails of the original budget, but didn't feel like going back to using YNAB because I knew it was a little bit more complex. So that's when I ultimately decided to switch to EveryDollar, and immediately I noticed a huge difference in terms of how often I am actually keeping up with tracking my transactions and making sure I'm staying on track with my budget. In my experience, they've almost gamified the budgeting process by having your planning tab, spending tab, and remaining funds each month. And after you input your planned income on the first screen, you then get to divvy up that income across all of your planned expenses until the number at the top equals 0, hence the name zero-based budget. That's largely just my inner nerd, but in general, when I was using YNAB, I would probably spend at least a few hours per month moving transactions into categories and adjusting the numbers, whereas with EveryDollar, I take like 5 minutes and create the budget at the beginning of the month. My wife and I go over it for a few minutes to make sure everything looks good, and then we're each able to view the budget throughout the month from each of our individual devices and quickly drag and drop transactions into those planned spending categories that we created together. In total, we probably spend an hour per month on this app, and as a result, it is much more likely that we will continue using it long term because it is so frictionless. So it's tough to say that one of these platforms is definitively better than the other, and on the surface, pretty much every budgeting platform is going to allow you to track your income, show you your spending categories, and allow you to divide up your income across those categories. So to me, it's really about the user experience and what platform or budgeting method is going to be most seamlessly integrated into my life. Again, for me, at least for the current stage of my life, I think that the answer is EveryDollar, but you might need something more complex like YNAB, or maybe even the good old-fashioned envelope method or spreadsheet. Everyone is going to be a little bit different, and it's likely to change over time, but I'd love to know what you think of these two platforms down in the comment section, and whether you prefer the EveryDollar budgeting app or the YNAB budgeting app, and why. Be sure to check out some of my favorite financial tools using those links down below the like button, many of which will give you some free cash when you sign up, which we always love. As always, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.